Hello. It has been quite a while. I do not make YouTube videos very frequently, very often at all, but I do like to make recap videos at the end of a year to showcase my favorite errors and cards that I picked up over the past year. I was toying with the idea of doing a top 10 sort of thing, and after referencing my spreadsheet that I use to keep track of my collection and seeing all of the cards that I have and did buy last year, I realized that 10 is just not enough. There are so many cards I want to go over, so many things I want to showcase, and it's going to take a long time. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I'm going to try and put some timestamps in the description, separating all of the cards out by error type as I go. So, you don't have to watch the whole thing, obviously. If there's a certain error that interests you, go to the description, and there should be a timestamp to go and look at those cards. That said, I've got like a dozen different stacks of cards here with me. This first stack is all miscellaneous stuff. These are cards where there was only really one per error type that I got this past year. So here we go. This is a Raichu, base unlimited. This error, it's actually a pretty interesting one to start on. It's gone by a few different names. End of Holo roll, I think, is the current terminology that CGC will use for these. So the idea here is on a sheet of holographic Pokemon cards, you will have a layer of holofoil that gets adhered to the cardstock before it is cut. And in the case of this card, that sheet of holofoil was misaligned when it was adhered to the cardstock a little bit too far to the right. So what happens then is as the blanket attempts to roll over the sheet and apply ink, it goes over a little lip that's created here. There's actually a physical distance, and the ink is not able to apply properly to that part of the card because of that the gap. It's like raised a little bit from that foil being misaligned. So it gives you this vertical white line. This was actually a PSA 7 that I bought, which is surprising because if you look at that corner, it looks like it's inked a little bit with pen. So that's interesting. I'm not sure what I'll do with this. I might send it to CGC. It will probably get the AA designation for authentic altered because of that pen. Unless I'm wrong, maybe that's not pen. But yeah, pretty cool one. And I will not be editing this video. I do not have those skills, and I do not intend to learn them anytime soon. Kingler. This is Insufficient Magenta, which is a pretty unusual error for WotC. It's not a very common one. So this guy is less red than normal. I probably should have grabbed a comparison copy, but just again, I'm not going to edit a photo of a normal Kingler on here, but you can Google a picture of what Kingler normally looks like. These are really cool. There's been a few commons and uncommons from Fossil that have this going on. It's not in good shape, but it was like 15 bucks on eBay, and I thought it was pretty cool. Pinsir. So I think this was my only additional Cyan ink card that I got last year. And Pinsir errors, for whatever reason, it's really hard to find errors on this holo. A while back I did find a screen holo Pinsir, but I passed it off to someone that, well, it was Ashley. I don't know if she bought it or not. Regardless, this guy has got some Cyan going horizontal across the top. It actually does extend to the border of the card a little bit. Not the craziest error, but pretty cool for a Pinsir. Machamp. This is the 2D starter kit, the Cosmos foil variant. I don't really collect miscuts, right? But every once in a while I'll see one that catches my eye or looks like a pretty good deal, and I'll go, why not, This is a neat one. It was actually a PSA 6, and I looked at it on eBay and thought, that looks really good for a PSA 6. And the reason it was a 6, it's like right there, is a little indentation on the border. Oh, it's like down there actually. A little tiny, like binder ring-esque indent. Very minuscule. And it seems as though CGC either didn't catch it or didn't care to, dock the grade for that. But a beautiful card. I will probably keep it. If it is a case where CGC missed that and they gave it a 9, I'm not super comfortable selling that, but just gonna keep it for now. Victreebel. So this is a Holo shift, albeit a very small one. Even to this degree, it's pretty hard to find them. This one is tragically beat up, as many of the greatest errors tend to be. I thought about, so I do have a couple other Holo shifts that I'll be showing off later in this video, but they are of a higher caliber than this card in my opinion, so I didn't want to group this one together with them. For now, I thought I would just throw it in here in this miscellaneous section. It is a nice shift. You know, you can see a little bit of the Holo going onto the Victreebel art, and you can see, you know, a little bit of that silhouette there. And you know what? I'll take it. It was cheap. It was, I don't remember the price, but I found it unlisted, so can't complain about that. All right. Let's do these. So if you know me, you'll know that I love gold border cards, additional ink on the border. Fossil Commons apparently have this similar variant. It's not exactly gold, but it is darker than normal. I'm just going to grab a random card sitting next to me here. For comparison's sake, this is a Jungle Snorlax. You can, maybe not the best comparison, but you can see how much darker the border is on this Kabuto. And I do have some others that I got this year. Grab these two. So I have 3 of these now. Tentacool and Kabuto are definitely a step above the Mysterious Fossil, I think, for their darkness. I got the Kabuto and Mysterious Fossil from Haas Thrift and Collectibles as part of a trade. The Tentacool was actually graded. It was a CGC something like a 4.5 maybe with the error label. So it's cool to see that they will designate this, and that came from TCA Gaming. Got it off of his eBay earlier this year. So those are pretty neat. These two I am super stoked to own. Gold Border Shadowless, one of my favorite errors to collect, certainly one of my favorite errors within the realm of non-holographic cards. Let's do these one at a time. So here's Bulbasaur. These tend to look very grainy up close, which is exactly what you want to see. Super dark. I'll grab this Snorlax again just to have some sort of comparison. But oh man, look at that. Night and day. I already had a gold border Charmander in my collection. So to get these two as well is just phenomenal. I believe it was the Squirtle popped up first on Facebook. Someone had opened like a box of miscellaneous cards from a card shop and found this Squirtle in the bulk. And then later on also found this Bulbasaur, and I was able to grab both of them from that guy for 100 each. I have no idea if that's a good price for this error or not. They're so hard to find that it's really not a standard for them, and most of the sales data I know is just from my own personal purchases and experience. But very glad that I could pick those up. So this next stack, these are normal cards. Believe it or not, I do sometimes collect ordinary cards. Specifically, I do a lot of, in my search for errors, I'll find pretty mint condition stuff that I will buy and grade, and sometimes I keep them. So I think if I could grade a Shadowless 9+ set myself for the Holos, that would be really cool. This Ninetales I got for like 75 bucks. I thought it looked really nice, and it got the 9. It's really just the centering that was the problem, but beautiful Holo. It's got that real nice, like, bright yellow border on it. Here's a Shadowless Raichu that I bought. This was listed as lightly played, I remember. I got it for 100-ish. I think it was like 102, and got the 10. This is in really good shape. There is a horizontal print line on it somewhere. Might not be able to catch it. My lighting setup in here is a little different than normal. I normally just have like the overhead and a lamp. I've got a second cell phone next to me with the phone light on just to try and showcase some of these errors a bit better. But this is in really good shape. It's got a dot on the top left corner, not much else to speak about for the back. And then again, just a horizontal print line. But so this was a pop 7, I think, none graded higher last I looked. Gorgeous. And it's really cool to have graded Shadowless 10. I've got a couple more Gen Mint 10s here. Not specifically trying to build a set of these, but I've been trying to hang on to more of these Wanty 10s just because I don't grade very many and they are pretty cool. So long as I'm financially able to just, like, you know, hang on to them and not sell them, I think that's the route I'm going to try and go. Although admittedly, as an error collector, if I get to the point where I start selling off a lot of things in my collection, this is like my first line of stuff to go. Venusaur. This is a cool one. Man. You know, for all the time that I've put into errors and misprints, there's just something so pure about enjoying a card for its condition. But this is beautiful. And I'm pretty happy with those 3 10s. I think as far as 10s go, they are believable, they are acceptable. And then I threw this guy in here too. So this is a gray stamp Machamp, CGC 9, which I was not initially going to keep. This, to me, it's not a very exciting error. You can see the difference. You can see that it's lighter. They're reasonably hard to find, but I love errors that have, you know, very vivid and noticeably different visual appeal. This is not really an error like that to me. However, it is a pop 3. It's pop 2 or 3. I think it was pop 2 with 1 graded higher on CGC, which surprised me. And at the time that I got this card, I couldn't find any like listed or sold higher than like a 6 with any company. So figured I would hang on to it just because I think it's hard to get a 9 on these. Pretty neat. Alrighty. Got some Holo bleeds coming up here. Picked a few of these up this year. Starting with this guy. This is a Jumpluff from Neo Revelation, Unlimited. There's a good angle for that top right there. Ooh, really nice. It's like a sweet spot with this lighting. So I have a couple pages of Neo Holo bleeds in my binder. They were sort of a starting point for me when I first got into collecting misprints. So it's always neat to add more. And most of these cards that I'll be holding in Card Savers I have been keeping them in my binder. And for the purpose of this video, just to handle them easier, I put them into Card Savers. But this popped up, I think this was actually listed as a Holo bleed for like $40 maybe. Passed in an error Discord that I'm in. If you're in the Discord, you know which one I'm talking about. I forget who passed it off in there. It might have been Briehella. If it was you, thank you. But yeah, super cool Holo bleed. The Revelation ones are, for whatever reason, they tend to be a bit stronger than the other sets, being Genesis and Discovery, since Destiny just like doesn't have any for whatever reason. Here's another Revelation bleed. Blissey. This one is crazy. I almost wished I had kept this one in my binder. When I got it, I didn't have, so I have 2 completed binder pages, and I didn't really want to reorganize my binder to start a 3rd. So I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna slab it. And it did actually earn the Insufficient ink designation, which is traditionally pretty hard to get with CGC. Although I do think that they've been more lenient about that recently. This Blissey is a beautiful bleed. I actually initially thought it was a double holo. It is not. It just, because of the, you know, the nature of the holo bleed, it looks very close to that. And 6.5, not the worst, not the best. Does not detract from the appeal of the bleed to me. So I will take it. And I got one more here. Magneton, Japanese Fossil. Got a CGC 10. So I also have a couple binder pages of these old back Japanese bleeds. If you spend really any amount of time searching through old back Japanese Fossil, or even just base and jungle sets on eBay, you'll probably come across some of these unlisted. This one I actually got on Mercari Japan through Buyee. It was like $23 or something. And I thought it looked really good and the bleed looked pretty decent. So went ahead and got it, and it got the 10. did not earn an era designation, but in my opinion, if I resent it, it might earn it because it's a pretty decent bleed. I do have a duplicate of this in my binder. This one I'm just keeping because it's also a 10. And I think anytime you can get the marriage between high grade and cool misprint, you've got something special. Let's see here. Let's do these. So I would not consider myself a species collector, but I do collect cards specifically for Scyther, Scizor, and Mew. This is one Scyther that I got late last year. There was a Facebook post of someone that had a CGC graded like 5 or so of this card with this extra yellow ink on the front. So if you look at like the wings are yellow instead of pure white, the eyes are yellow, it's kind of all over the body on the front. That is additional yellow ink. So for my Scyther collection, I took to eBay, went through all the listings and did manage to find one unlisted. Pretty old listing, and very happy to add this to my collection. I do need to grade it at some point. A couple more Scythers here. Ooh, that's a really good angle. So this is a PSA 9 no symbol Scyther with a yellow layer obstruction. I guess you could say that it's 2 obstructions. I would just say it's 1, really, part of the same thing, really. But so that would be, extra water from the water roll getting onto the yellow ink plate, preventing the ink from adhering properly and then getting onto the blanket and then the sheet from there. So you've just got this smeared splotch of missing yellow and then a smaller one down there, presumably from a smaller droplet of water would be the idea. This is all my understanding. I'm sure there's a better way to explain how that all works. But regardless, got the 9 and that cool obstruction. Had to pick it up. I think I spent maybe a lot on this. I don't recall. Admittedly, it was somewhere between 100 and 200, I think is what this ended up going for. But very happy to own that. I know there's a few other copies for Scyther, and I think Victreebel as well, that have surfaced from Jungle. Here is a minor miscut, base 2 Holo Scyther. This one is well popped up, unlisted. I think I got it for 35. Pretty solid price. I'm very out of touch on like miscut values because I don't really collect them, so no idea what this would otherwise have gone for. I do know that Reggie Gigagod, shoutouts to him, he has a very similar copy, very close in the cut to this card. But pretty cool. Got a nice alignment dot down in the bottom left. And glad that it's near mint, got the 7.5. And I also have this guy I wanted to show for my Scizor collection. Dark Scizor is possibly my favorite card from Destiny, probably. This one came from, I think his username now is Light Pichu on Instagram. I paid $800 for it, which I think was a little bit high, more than I wanted to pay certainly, but I can live with it because these are really hard to find. There have been a few from German Neo Destiny with this extra yellow ink going down the front. This one is definitely the largest example of that ink error that I have seen, and it's on my guy Dark Scizor. Dunkel's Scarox, I don't know, but beautiful card, very happy to own it. This one's probably with me long term. A lot of these are, but this one especially for, my Dark Scizor. Let's see. This is a slightly larger stack. I grouped a whole bunch of additional yellow ink of various kinds together. So let's go through these. This is a Shadowless Clefairy with these vertical streaks of yellow ink going all the way up and down the front, possibly border ink. This is a repeated error in the Shadowless Holo set. I actually have a second Clefairy in my binder already, so I now have 2 of these. I also have a Machamp, and I know there's been some other ones, Mewtwo, Charizard, etc. They are by no means easy to find. Beautiful. Very happy to pick that up. Let's see. Running out of real estate up here. Chansey. Oh man. So this is a super cool additional yellow ink error on Chansey. This one was actually listed as damage on eBay by the seller, and I spoke with them a bit and gave them my opinion that it is in fact an ink error, and they decided to sell it to me for that $15 price tag that they originally listed it at, regardless. So shoutouts to that guy, real solid dude. I have a binder page of yellow saturated base holos, and while this is not really the same thing, I have it there for now because I don't even know what that error looks like on a colorless holo, and the odds of me finding one of those are extremely low. But this is a pretty good substitute. Got a few screen holos coming up. Here's Jolteon. If you are not familiar with this error, this is maybe not the best example to showcase it. I do think it's a decent example, but there's a lot of yellow on Jolteon to begin with, and this card is tragically beat up. But there are all of these, if you look here on the right side of the holo, that is yellow ink, kind of similar to that Clefairy, but much thinner lines and much closer together. And they go all the way through the holo and actually extend beyond the art box. They are pretty hard to find. I have had, I have found at one point or another every jungle holo with this error except for Clefairy so far. Here's a Vaporeon that I bought with it. This is one that has entered and left my collection a few times over the years. With my friend 519tails, I either traded or sold it to him at one point in time. In this past year, I bought it back for $200. Been keeping it in my binder. I think there's a chance that at some point I will amass an entire set of these, and I regret all of the ones that I have sold. So hanging on to this one for now. Gorgeous, gorgeous example. This one goes all the way through the holo. Gives it this really cool effect. You've probably heard the term Matrix holo before, alluding to that classic scene in the movie Matrix. But yeah, beautiful. And then one more here, this one. Base Machamp, the most common, easiest to find. I found this one unlisted for, $8 to $10 or something. It's actually a pretty good example. I've had a few on this card in the past. This is one of the better ones that I have had. Similar to that Vaporeon, it goes through the whole art box, and then you can see all of that yellow over the body of the text as well, around Seismic Toss, for instance. Pretty sweet card. This is going to be one of the lamest cards that I showcase that I get excited about, and I don't think a lot of other people will. So in Fossil, you can find this sort of yellow ink overspray on the holos. That is so minor, it might not even show in this video, and for all intents and purposes should not be included. But I have a binder page going for a set of these that I have not added anything to for like 2 years. So this Haunter is the only Haunter I've seen with any amount of this yellow ink in the holo. So hard to see as it is, I was very excited to find it. I have two others for Raichu here. Much stronger example, easier to see what's going on. You can see this sort of grainy texture. I think it's a very cool misprint. I love these errors that sort of add a textured appearance and feel to the holo. I did have two Raichu. I had one in my binder before I found this. Ended up grading and selling one and keeping this one. They were virtually identical in the strength of the error and in the condition of the card. Similarly, I now have two of this Kabutops. This one I went ahead and sent to CGC, intending to do the same thing. So this is the exact same error as that Raichu. I have another one of these in my binder that's relatively identical in the strength of the error. This one at some point I will end up selling. I do not know when, but it is on my to-do list. Here's a Jungle Exeggcute. This is a repeated, I guess you could call this a stain, or presumably like a large hickey sort of thing. But maybe not a hickey. It's really just additional yellow, now that I look at it again. What did they call it? Additional ink, yeah. It just sort of has the shape of a large hickey. In any case, this is a pretty cool one. Traded this one from Hash Thrift and Collectibles, if I recall. I think that was the same deal that we did for the Fossil Commons with the sort of orange border. Yeah, I think it's a really cool one. 8.5, solid grade. I have seen larger examples of this error on this card, but you know what? I'll take it. I've not been able to find one on eBay, so until I do, that will suffice. Moving on, we've got a no symbol Jolteon. This is a repeated error that can happen on the no symbol Jungle Holos, believe it or not. Sort of an error within an error variant. So that is all additional yellow ink. Kind of similar to that Fossil Kabutops and Raichu we just looked at. I actually have a second Jolteon with this error in my binder. This one was in much better shape. Got the 8.5. I want to say, I actually don't recall. I believe this was graded with PSA. I don't remember the grade though. I cracked it and sent it to CGC to get this error label. I'm glad that I did. Errors on Jolteon. Hard to hate them. They're pretty cool. Here's a Jungle Snorlax. This is another repeated yellow ink error sort of on the top left corner and then streaking horizontally across the top of the card. I have had another copy of this error that was in much better shape and around this strength that I regretfully sold. I don't remember, that was probably 2 years ago at least, but I am happy to own another one. These are pretty hard to find. There are some, it is a spectrum, so there are some that are weaker than this one. This is a pretty strong copy in my opinion. It's actually got a little bit of like Holo Bleed-esque effect up there. Pretty cool. All right, here's a real banger. A couple of real bangers. Oh man. Oh my gosh. Man. Holy cow. So, when we talk about yellow saturated, just having an abundance of yellow ink all over the card, this is what should come to mind. Although, interestingly, if you look at the sort of eyes of Dark Golbat, the top of his head really didn't get affected by this. And there is a second near identical example of this error on Dark Golbat that does the same thing on the character art. So, repeated, question mark? I got this off of Facebook. I think I paid $300 for it. I would pay that again in a heartbeat. This is outstanding in person. Love it. Rocket's Moltres with this super cool ink splatter, you could say, going down the left side of the front. So this got the additional ink designation. It is repeated in Gym Heroes. So far, let's see, I've seen 2 Rocket's Moltres, a couple of Brocks, there's a Lieutenant Surge's Fearow, at least 1, maybe 2. That might be it, but conceivably the whole Holo set is possible. That would be insane. Or maybe this is something where, you know, if you saw the layout of an uncut sheet, you could look at those 3 cards and realize, oh, they're all on like the very far left column. So maybe it's only the cards on that column or something. Regardless, this got the 9, which is crazy. Sort of like I said about that Fossil Magneton, you get a super cool error and a mint grade. You've got something pretty special. There were a few error collectors that spotted this on eBay. We all made offers on the listing. I offered, I think, $209. Shoutouts to 519 Tails for recommending me that number. And it worked. Got the card. Love it. A bit of a one-off for my collection right now. I do not have more of that one. And likely will not anytime soon. Okay, moving on. We're going to look at some Insufficient black ink cards. These are cards that I adore. One of my favorite error types of all time for the way that it changes the text, the character art, the holo, etc. It can change a whole lot about a card. So this is a base 2 Raticate, super faded. Gonna grab my handy Snorlax again for comparison, just so you can see. There's no trick of the light here. Man, talk about faded. I also have this Butterfree. Same thing going on. I'll admit I'm biased towards the Butterfree because that art is incredible. You know, one of those cards that really should have been a holo, would have been insane as a holo, but unfortunately is not. So these were listed as errors on eBay for like, I don't know, 15, 20 bucks a piece. It was these two. There was also a Tauros and a Jinx, all base 2 uncommons. Couldn't believe it because this is such a strong example of insufficient black ink. They're in decent shape. It's classic art. I thought that that was an absolute steal. That said, I decided to only grab these two and not the Tauros and Jinx because, I don't know, I'm stupid or something. Either way, glad I got these two. They are very cool. I got, let's see. Same thing going on here to a lesser extent. I maybe should have shown these first because after seeing the base 2 ones, they are not as impressive. If you focus on just the first ed stamp, you can see how much darker that is compared to the rest of the text. So these are, same thing, insufficient black ink. And there are actually differences, like if I had a normal Eevee here, which I should have prepared, but again, I'm a moron, you can actually see that the ears, the eyes, the shadow, and the background art in general on this card is all lighter than normal. So it does have a pretty marked visual difference. These were PSA graded. One was, I think this was an 8 and this was a 9. Found them listed on eBay for like 20, 30 bucks a piece. And I had not seen this on First Ed Rocket Commons, so I thought, shoot, might as well grab them. I'm glad that I did because as often as I search through those cards, I still have not found more. Okay, some very special ones coming up, at least in my opinion. So this is a double holo Revelation Unlimited Blissey with insufficient black ink. This is one of my primary collection goals, is completing a holo set for this era. It is insane to me that you can have double holo Revelation cards with an alternate error on top of being double holo. Kind of like the no symbol jungle with additional yellow ink. I just can't believe that that's even possible. They're very hard to find. I think definitely the rarest example of a double holo card between Unlimited and First Edition. I think I would stand by that. There are some additional yellow ones on First Ed Revelation, if you want to count those, that are also very hard to find. But regardless, I had 2 of these Blissey. I actually graded and sold my other one to a friend after I found this one because it's a stronger example of the error, despite being in worse condition. We have that one, and I also found this year a Crobat. Oh my gosh. This is so cool. Super faded text and faded character art. You see all of this orange in the background behind Crobat, which normally I'm pretty sure you cannot pick up on that because of all the black ink obscuring the background art. Oh man, I wish it were in better shape. It's really not in good shape, but again, only one that I've seen. These are so hard to find, and I went bananas when I found this card. And spoilers, I may have found another example of this error in this set that I don't have earlier this week. So when that shows up in the mail, I'll be posting it somewhere. Here is a base unlimited Hitmonchan. So insufficient black ink is a repeated error on the theme deck holos from base unlimited. And I'm going to go ahead and say barring Gyarados, because after all of these years of searching, I have still never seen a Gyarados that is low black like this. However, I've had at least half a dozen Hitmonchans, and this one that I found this past year is easily the strongest I have found. It is unfortunately only a 5, but the fade on this is incredible. It's pretty close to those base 2 uncommons I had up here just a moment ago. So super stoked about that one. Got 2 more here for insufficient black. Well, I've got another stack, but here's for Alligator. This one's a bit harder to tell. Look at the F, you can see that it's a bit faded. You look at the first ed stamp. These tend to be more faded on the left side of the text, and then get a little bit more saturated as you move over to the right. This is repeated across the first edition Neo Genesis Holos, which is wild to me. Like, this is not the craziest error, even for like Black Ink, which I love. It's not a great example, but the fact that it's repeated on first edition Neo Genesis Holos is crazy to me. So I have that for Alligator, and then I also picked up this Ampharos this year, which I like quite a bit more. And I wish that I had a normal copy for comparison's sake. This one I think is a bit more faded than the for Alligator. And I suspect that the Holo, similar to the Crobat I just had, is a bit more sparkly than normal because of the lower amount of black ink. But I can't really corroborate that. I don't have a comparison. Still, this is a cool one. Got the 9. Love 9 errors. So cool. Okay. These are some more low black ink cards. I believe these are all from Rocket. If you know me, you know that Team Rocket Unlimited with Insufficient Black Ink, one of my favorite errors to collect of all time. This is the second Magneton I have ever owned, and it is the best Magneton I've ever owned. For this error, this one I was so excited to find. I had a mediocre, it is now a CGC7 Dark Magneton with this error in my binder for the longest time. I was finally able to replace it with this one, even though it's, you know, tragically not in good shape. It's a pretty decent example of the error, finally, for Dark Magneton. So I was very happy to find that, because it's been quite a challenge. Got a Dark Arbok here. This was a PSA 9. I have high hopes for the grade. I think I have an 8.5 right now. I'm not sure if this can cross to a CGC 9 with those corners down there. I suspect that it can, so we're going to hope that it does. Gorgeous example of this error. And again, we're talking about faded text, faded character art, and a more vibrant holo with less black ink obscuring the background. And actually, if you'll bear with me for a moment, for comparison's sake, I really should have grabbed some of these ahead of time. I do have this guy to more properly illustrate what I'm talking about. Look at how the holo sparkles more on the right one. You'll see the gold frame, faded text, and of course, Arbok himself, much lighter. Insane to me. Okay, some more Rocket Low Blacks. Got a 9 on this Dark Blastoise. I have an 8 of this as well that is of similar strength in terms of the error. Obviously the 9 is an upgrade. I am very excited to have. I now have a 9 on Dark Blastoise and on Dark Charizard. So, super cool. This is such a gorgeous card. My goodness. Love it. Speaking of, here's a Dark Charizard. I have 2 9s. One I found and graded myself. This one was pulled and graded by, what's his name? Swolepoke on Instagram. I got it for 500, which honestly, that kind of sets the benchmark for what these are worth, what they go for. I've had a lot of people ask me that. There are not a lot of confirmed sales of this error where it was, you know, sold as an error and earned a premium for that error. But got that classic old blue label with subgrades. And yeah, now I have 2 9s of this. Super sick. Another heavy hitter from this set. Got a Dark Dragonite. Bought this one, I want to say this was just ungraded. Graded it, got an 8.5. Very strong example for Dark Dragonite. Beautiful card. Possibly my favorite in the set. You know, it turns this nice, you know, banana yellow. It looks so cool. So cool compared to a normal copy. Gorgeous. Got a few more. Here's Dark Golbat. Got the 9.5, which surprises me. This was previously a PSA 8. I've had mixed results with crossing PSA to CGC, but for whatever reason with these Rocket Low Blacks, they always do better at CGC. That 9 Dark Blastoise I had was previously a PSA 8, for example. But this one, oh, seeing like the cave background in Dark Golbat's mouth is crazy. And just the cards that are traditionally darker than normal, seeing how much more the holo pops with this error, like this guy, is finally a truly holographic card. Like finally, he deserves it. You pulled this out of a pack as a kid and you're like, yay, it's actually holo. Crazy. I have 2 9s of this now that are very close. I give a slight edge to this copy and I have my other one up on eBay. But gosh, love it. Got pretty lucky with my grades on these. A lot of 9s and higher. Rocket Sneak Attack, same thing. Faded text. Does not have that gold frame. For comparison, you can kind of, I usually look here on the hair behind the armpit, I guess. That little spot there of shadow tends to be much lighter, but this error much darker on a normal copy. Among other things, the Ultra Ball, for example, is much lighter on this than normal. But yeah, got the 9. I have way too many of these, but I will take a 9. And I'll take a 9 on this one as well, Dark Raichu. I have a CGC 7.5 of Dark Raichu that is a bit worse than this. My binder copy I think is maybe a bit better than this, but in all honesty, none of the copies I have are as strong as I want them to be for Dark Raichu. This one is decent. I'm glad that it got a 9, and it's my best graded example for now. So it's super cool to buy and grade it this past year. I think I bought it late last year for like 50, and I got the 9, that's awesome, but man, do I want a better one. Just gotta find it. Okay, so that was it for Rocket Low Black and the last of the Insufficient Black ink cards I wanted to showcase. Now we're gonna go back to some additional white ink cards that I picked up this past year. Starting with a banger, Magneton from Base Unlimited. So there is another identical copy owned again by Reggie Gigagod that he put on his Instagram page. Check him out. You've got this vertical line of holofoil that is, unobstructed by the white ink. Unobscured, probably a better term there. And the rest of this just super grainy all throughout, going across the entire art box. And you see this vertical line on the left side a lot for this error. Very happy to pick this up. Found it for like 30 bucks or something on eBay. Crazy find, one of my better finds last year, I think. Love it. And I have a couple fossil ones here. This one much less noticeable, although you do see that same vertical line on the left side of the art box. Much harder to make out where the white ink is, but if you compare the left side of the art box to the right side, you can see the difference. I had another Moltres, very similar manifestation of this error, only it was a 6. This one got the 9, so I sold that one, and then, this is my upgrade. All the same, I would love a stronger example on this card. Really, any error on Moltres at all, please. We're all desperate. They just never appear. But very happy with a 9 on that. Got a fossil muck here. Got an 8.5. This is a very strong example. Honestly, this is crazy. Look at the right side. Look at this. That's supposed to be holo. You see these stars here that are peeking through the white ink? That's what this is all supposed to be. It's practically non-holo. See, right there, next to the hand. You can see that one on the orange. Man, what the heck? This is crazy. And it's muck, so who cares? I care. Glad to have it. Glad I got an 8.5. I think I had a 6.5 previously that was close to this, but this is a clear upgrade. Stoked about that one. Move on to some base 2 additional winding holos I picked up. This is a crazy one I have not shown publicly yet. Showed a few friends that I found this. This is the best example of additional whiting on base 2 Ninetales that I know of. Really cool. Got that sort of popcorn-esque feel to it. Textured similarly to the fossil yellow inks that we had a while ago. Love this card. Just a random eBay find, super beat up again, as all the best errors tend to be. I do not actually own this anymore, although I have it here with me. I've already done a trade for it with my friend 519tails. Incredible Ninetales collector, decent human being. No, I'm just kidding, he's a good guy. Go check him out too. We just have not shipped we're trading for this, but we haven't shipped our stuff yet. So I'm sure he will love this card when he gets it. And I know that I love having it here with me still. So buddy, take your time. Got an Alakazam here. Same thing going on, but to a lesser extent. You've got sort of almost the inverse of what we had on the Magneton and Moltres. This is a very solid white line on the left side of the art box with more whiting sort of trailing off the right side of the character art. Really cool. Glad that this got an 8. It's the only example I know of on base 2 Alakazam, but surely there are some better ones out there. Like, it's not bad, but there's some better ones out there, I'm sure. Like this, for example, Nidoqueen. Oh my goodness. Same thing going on, but wow, the strength of this is off the charts. Gosh, that's beautiful. And again, this was a PSA 6, got an 8.5 at CGC. I haven't, too closely inspected why did this get a 6, looking at it at a glance. You can sort of see some corner wear, but nothing egregious, This, for all intents and purposes, looks pretty near mint. I would accept an 8.5, but beautiful white ink error. And honestly, Nidoqueen, not a card that gets a lot of love in the error world. Don't see too many. A couple more for base 2 here. Here's a Venusaur. This one, like the Ninetales, has that solid white line on the left and then a very popcorn-esque texture across the rest of the art box. This was previously a CGC 7.5, I think, that just didn't have the error label. I just straight up cracked it and resubmitted, and it got a 7.5 again, so props to them for consistency, only this time they denoted the error. Very happy about that. Beautiful card. Got a base 2 Zapdos here. Bit harder to see, but it is the same effect as Ninetales and Nidoqueen. You've got the solid white line on the left, and then a very popcorn-esque texture across the rest of the art box. Only a 6.5. This is actually a card that I found and graded myself a few years ago, maybe a couple of years ago, and sold it to my friend Rocket Gang Market, who I ended up, I bought it back from him later this past year in 2024. I think I paid $200, and I think I sold it to him for around that same figure. But love this card. Would really like a full set of these base 2 holos with this error. It's not looking very likely, but you know what? We're making progress, and that's what matters. So Neo Revelation Unlimited can have additional white, very similar sort of error here. So it's on the left side of the art box again, only it's not really a straight line. It's rather kind of curved, sort of curves inward towards the bottom of the art box. This one is repeated. I have had an identical example of this error on Misdreavus in the past that I sold. It was in better shape too, so I feel like I kind of downgraded from there, but I am happy to have picked up a second one. This is, again, I just found it on eBay. I do that a lot. Only got a 4, but for an error like this, I will happily take that. Man, 50 minutes. That flew by. I have 1 stack left. I'm just going to call this the good stuff. These are all of my biggest pickups from this past year. So here we have a Cosmos Foil Magneton from Fossil Unlimited. Widely believed to be a test print. We all know of the sheet that was cut up and graded with CGC recently with the blank back. Some of those had shifted holo on them. This is a fully printed copy that I found on eBay. Lucky me. This was mixed into a lot of 3 cards from someone that, I looked at their account, they had not previously really sold Pokemon cards. So, is this someone that got this card from a, relative that worked at WotC and it's a test print? Or did this get distributed in a pack and then this guy opened it and just had it? I have no idea, but it is beautiful. And the holofoil on it, the pattern, I believe is slightly different from a normal Cosmos foil pattern. I would need to look into that more. But definitely one of the biggest cards that I acquired last year. An Edge of Sheet Miscut Ancient Mew. Insane card. I've seen a few Edge of Sheet Miscuts on this card that are this size or larger. I've seen many more that are smaller than this one. This comes from my good friend PokeRiz. This is another card that has bounced back and forth between our 2 collections a few times, and I ended up picking it up from him this past year, I believe, for 1,000. I actually graded it for him a while back. Look at those subgrades, 10, 10, 9, 5. And then off-center centering, I think, counts as 8.5 to the overall total, which would explain the 9 grade. Not sure if their subgrade calculations have changed. But what a gorgeous card. Ugh. Again, I don't collect miscuts, but for this, I make an exception. One more here. This is a Holo Shift Ancient Mew, which sounds really strange to say, doesn't it? Not a card that you think of when you think of Holo Shifts, but it is, in fact, possible. So you can see, sort of trace the art box, see the character art of the Mew, the text. You can see this vertical strip going down the left border, where there is now a visible color that would normally be, sort of obscured isn't the right term, but it would be holographic normally, and now it's not because of the shift. An insane shift. Like, are you kidding me? I don't know if I've seen another one of these. I feel like I have. Maybe there's 2 bouncing around. But this one I also picked up from my buddy PokeRiz. I think I paid $7.50 for it, which I would happily play again. Crazy card. Ancient Mew, man. One of the best cards of all time. And what luck for us that it has such cool misprints. But we need to find more of these, gang. More of these have to show up. This is a PSA 6 base unlimited Charizard, and it really is this red. This is not a filter. I think this is a card I'm going to have to grab a comparison for real quick. I luckily do have another base Charizard somewhat on hand. Just give me a moment here to find it. It's actually my childhood Charizard. Should be in here somewhere. The curse of having too many boxes of cards laying around. Here we go. Put this back. So as an aside, this is from my childhood collection. I got a PSA 1 and it's a black dot error. And now it is our reference point for what a normal Charizard looks like compared to this behemoth. Holy cow. I found this on eBay. Photos were taken at somewhat of an awkward angle. I could tell that it was super dark. I wasn't sure if it was fake or if it was just the reddest Charizard ever. I looked at the PSA scan and it appeared to just be the reddest Charizard ever, which, man, I got it for $3.50 or so. Probably normal price for a 6, maybe a little high, but my goodness, what a card. I know they call these Ruby Charizards for the Shadowless versions of this sort of error, you know, magenta saturation thing. But for just ordinary unlimited, I have not seen one better than this. If they exist, that would be crazy, but wow. This is like my only really cool Charizard misprint. I actually have a yellow saturated one in my binder that would make, well, it does make a crazy comparison with this. But so super, super happy to have this. And I feel like I finally, it's like a rite of passage. I have a really cool Charizard in my collection. Like before this, I didn't really, and now I do. Dark Weezing, missing the yellow ink layer. I'm so happy that I own this card. It is a 2.5, and boy, can you tell that it's a 2.5. I had known about this error on Dark Weezing. I had seen pictures floating around like E4 years and years ago, and it was almost like a myth. Like, oh, there's a blue Dark Weezing somewhere, but is it real? Who knows, right? I have a Dark Alakazam with this error that I picked up a couple of years ago. So after that one, you know, was found and graded, and I had sort of like proof that, okay, this is a real thing that happened. These do exist, and there are, you know, conceivably other Holos in the set that have this error on them. They're just hard to find. This Dark Weezing popped up on eBay from, I think it was a 0 or 1 feedback seller that listed it at like 5,000. And it was passed off in Discord in one of the groups that I'm in. I think it was Mike Sabo, if I'm saying your name right. Major thanks to you for passing this listing along. I, like a madman, messaged this guy and offered him $1,500 for this card. This tragically beat up Dark Weezing, because the Rocket Missing Yellow is probably my favorite error to collect. These are so spectacular to me, on par with Holo Shifts, and you just never get the chance to pick them up. Like, dude, the blue grass energies, oh my gosh. It's a blue Weezing. What more needs to be said? It's a blue Weezing. Oh, I'm so happy to, and this was January of last year. It's been about a year since I picked this up. Crazy. Only got a couple more here. Southern Islands Marill. Oh my gosh, beautiful holo. Insane shift. It's a diagonal shift. You can actually see it extend on the bottom edge there. I'm trying to pick up the glare and the light. It doesn't shine as brightly. You can kind of see down there. There's like a few dots showing through. But incredible shift for Southern Islands. That's a pretty solid one. I mean, you can see so much of like the energies, the description, the set symbol, and it got a 9. This popped up on Facebook, and I had already had a second copy, which the time that I bought my second copy, it had been the best Marill shift that I knew of, and I was pretty gung-ho about doing a Southern Islands shift set. So when this one popped up a few months later and just completely outclassed it for both condition and size of the shift, I felt a bit sheepish, but I knew that I would rather have this one, so I sprung on it. What did I pay for this? $1,500 maybe? And then I ended up selling my other copy. But my gosh. So happy to own this. Definitely my favorite card in Southern Islands. Nayo Kimura, I believe. Right? Yeah. Shoutouts to Peekaboo. And final card that I will be showing from my 2024 collection editions is this Poliwrath Holo Shift. Pretty solid shift. It's a good size. It's a cool silhouette. Kind of got that holo dropping down over the eyes, making them look even angrier than normal. And I got the 8. Really good grade for a shift. Maybe overgraded if you look at that on the edge and then that corner. I would feel better calling this a 7.5, but am I going to complain about it getting an 8? I'm sure not. This is another card that I found. This was listed as a normal holo. Got it for, you know, 20 bucks or so. Showed up and it's a holo shift. So, you know, lesson of the video, do not give up on browsing eBay looking for really good deals. They do still happen. There's still a lot of cards flying under the radar. So, you know, do your diligence and take some time to look. Don't know what you'll find. Love this holo shift. I think I'm up to 5 now from base unlimited. 6 if you count my Hitmonchan that's kind of small. Not that I'm counting. A full set is not on my bingo board, but it would be sweet. So, that is going to be the end of the video, ending right around the hour mark, believe it or not. Again, I'll try and put some timestamps. I hope that there are some really cool cards and areas that you enjoyed looking at, and that, you know, maybe you learned a thing or two about the cards in here. I hope I didn't, you know, overshare any information for anybody that was mentioned in the video, but thank you for watching, and happy hunting.